Whenever you purchase a property in Wilkinsburg, no matter how it transfers, whether you got it at a sheriff's sale, you're buying it, you inherited it, or even if you're refinancing it, there are several procedures that need to be followed. And everything I'm about to discuss is also written down on our code enforcement page on the borough website. Our website is wilkinsburgpa.gov. When you get on our website, there'll be a picture of the borough. Above that picture, there are several links. Go to Borough Departments. That will give you a drop-down menu. From that menu, choose Code Enforcement. When you're on our page, as you scroll down, what I'm about to tell you is also written there. And then as you scroll further down, all of our applications are on that page. And the first two applications we're going to discuss is the property transfer or refinance application and the die test application. The property transfer or refinance application will generate a local level lien letter and will also contain all the information about the zoning of the property that you're about to buy. The local level lien letter is $50. This is the application. On this application, you'll see two fees. One is the lien and one is the sewer compliance letter. The sewer compliance letter is generated from a die test. The die test application is also on our website. Anytime a property transfers, a die test needs to be performed on the storm water aspects of your building. So we're talking about where your rainwater is going, your downspouts and your gutters. You have to have a certified master plumber test that your rainwater, stormwater is not draining into our sanitary sewers. It is perfectly legal for them to drain into our storm sewers. They cannot drain into our sanitary sewers. Any local plumber knows the requirement to do this test. So the seller usually hires the plumber and pays the plumber separately. The die test application is a $25 fee. It generates the sewer compliance letter. As a point of clarity on this application, you will see letter of compliance and the fee is $25. You will also see on this application, sewer compliance letter, $25. They are the same fee. So these two applications together have a fee of $75. $50 for the lien letter, $25 for the sewer compliance letter. Once it is determined, I do check that the plumber is registered with Allegheny County. We will accept a journeyman doing the job, but the master plumber also has to add their signature to the test. So in an effort to save time, make sure when you submit the die test, the certified master plumber has also signed. The die test application was recently updated on December 5th of 2018. Our application now reflects other ways you can get your lien letter if your die test fails. There is a variance, there is a weather hardship, and there is an option for the buyer to do the die test after the purchase. It involves getting into a contract with a plumber, listing how much it's going to cost to rectify the situation so that the die test will pass. That amount of the contract has to be left in our offices in escrow, and with the ability for the borough to execute the contract in the event that the work is not performed. If you have any questions about those aspects of the die test, you can always call the code office at 412-244-2923. But again, these two applications are a must. And if they are not done and a property transfers, you will be receiving a request for compliance to meet these requirements. So again, if you purchased a property in a sheriff's sale, after the fact, you will have to come in and submit these applications. The third situation with releasing a lien letter and a sewer compliance letter is dealing with occupancy. Any time a dwelling is going to be occupied by a new owner or a new occupant, that person needs an occupancy permit. So if the buyer, upon closing, wants to occupy this space, whether it's a commercial space or a residential space, they will need a valid occupancy before I release the lien letters. However, if the buyer is not intending to occupy immediately, they're either a flipper or they're going to renovate the property before they move in, what we will accept is a notarized letter from the buyer stating that they are assuming responsibility for all outstanding violations, and they will apply for all necessary permits prior to occupying. If the buyer wants a list of the outstanding violations, they can apply for the occupancy permit. We will go out and do the initial inspection, draw up the list of all the outstanding violations, and then they can submit the notarized letter. That being said, once the violations are rectified, that's when the buyer should call in for a reinspection, because we will use that same application and there will be no extra fees. So when they call for the reinspection, we will need the name of the occupant who will occupy the dwelling. Another situation that arises is that you're buying an apartment building that's occupied. Prior to me releasing the lien letters, we have to verify that all the current tenants have occupancy permit. Any tenant who is in that building with a valid occupancy permit will keep that occupancy permit and it will transfer with the sale. Occupancy permits are for a person, an occupant, in a specific space. So all valid occupancies transfer with the sale. Any tenant who does not have a valid occupancy and is remaining in the sale must acquire a valid occupancy permit before I release the lien letters. Any vacant properties, any vacant apartments in that building, we will need a notarized letter saying that the buyer's assuming responsibility for outstanding violations and that they will apply for all necessary permits prior to occupancy to cover the vacant units. Once I have either valid occupancy permits or the notarized letter, that's when I will release all the paperwork for sale. I will release the lien letter, the sewer compliance letter, and any occupancy permits that are valid, and I will send along a copy of the notarized letter.